Yeah, process and workflow is like half the battle, at least.
Yeah, and it's so underestimated by a lot of people.
Yeah.
But it makes such a big difference, such a big impact on what you can write.
And we're on. Welcome, everybody, to another episode of the Last Week Liquid podcast. Today, I have the pleasure of sitting down with Jos, better known as Auris. Jos is a drum and bass producer from the Netherlands with releases across the likes of Goldfat and Differential. He is also the host of his own radio show on Goatshed, which airs once a month on Twitch. And you can catch his latest release, Metro 54, out now on all platforms. Jos, welcome to the show. How are you doing?
Good evening. I'm doing good. Thanks for having me on here.
Yeah, my pleasure. You were just telling me you're still working a few days before Christmas. You're still not on a vacation.
No, I only have like the very last week of the year is a week off for me, so I'm still on my job during the day.
Well, what's your... Because we'll have plenty of time to talk about music and drum and bass and all of that. So before we dive into all of that, what's actually your main job? I don't think I know.
I'm a software developer.
Okay.
So I work on it's something called Salesforce, big enterprise software stuff. And I'm now at a insurance company just translating business processes into software for them.
I actually have like a somewhat similar job.
Oh, really?
And I'm more of like an analyst, but it's also within Salesforce.
Oh, no way.
Yeah. It's not for Salesforce directly, but it's like I work for a huge software company and they use Salesforce internally as their CRM. And so there's a lot of like optimizations you need to do and stuff you need to implement in Salesforce. And I'm more of an analyst of like the stuff we implement in Salesforce.
Oh, right, yeah.
Like, is it actually used or not? What can we improve and stuff like that? So,
like if we were at the same company, we would be in the same team probably.
Yeah, that's a really strange coincidence.
Yeah.
What's the company you said? Insurance company?
So this one is called VVAA. It's a Dutch insurance company that focuses on like the medical field. Mm-hmm. So they insure for doctors, dentists, surgeons, that kind of stuff.
Okay.
And I work there through a consulting company, which is called NextView.
Okay.
It's we do consulting around Salesforce implementations, pretty much.
Okay. Is that something you studied at university, like software development and all that, or?
It's actually something I taught myself.
Okay.
Like way back when I was 10 years old or something, I messed around with a game maker or making my own website with one of those, what you call it? Like one of those drag and drop website making tools.
Yeah.
Like and from there on, like from, these days it would be Squarespace. Back then it was something a little less sophisticated. But yeah, like from there on, I kind of always had an interest in IT.
Okay.
And somewhere around, like when I finished high school, I decided I don't actually want to do IT. I want to go do marketing. So that's what I did a bachelor's in. Mm-hmm. But then again, halfway through the bachelor's, I decided actually no, marketing's not really my thing. I want to do something more, it's something where you can really say, okay, this very concrete thing, today I have built this and now I can see it here and this is what I've done, and not, we've decided on a strategy and maybe it works, but maybe it won't. We can't really tell.
Yeah, a bit more like the engineering aspect. I guess,
exactly.
Building stuff. Yeah,
a little bit more exact.
Yeah. I did business studies. And I had a few marketing courses. And a lot of it is like a lot of fluff, you know?
Yeah,
a lot of,
that's the thing. It's a lot of fluff, and it was a bit too much fluff for me.
So how did you manage to switch from a bachelor in marketing to I guess you did a master's then afterwards, but more in engineering?
I only have a bachelor's.
Okay.
Which is a little more common in the Netherlands, I think. But yeah, I had like a side job as a web developer. I was working for small businesses, creating websites for them. And through there, I once went to one of those, like Silver has this big, what's it called, like the corporate events where they
like job fairs or
yeah, like a job fair, but more like aimed towards just them selling their products.
Okay, yeah.
But I went to one of those anyways, just to see, kind of see what's up, what's happening. And also I was looking for an internship at the time. So I thought maybe I'll find a company here which has one. And I did actually. The company that I'm now still working at, they had like their little stand on the floor there. And I just like there were a lot of salespeople walking around. Someone chatted me up as I walked by, and next thing I knew, I was offered a internship position there.
Nice.
So and I kind of stuck around from then.
Dude, we have like the same life story because I started also like a student job at my first company.
No way.
yeah. Like when I started university, my parents were very like, okay, this summer, like you need to work, like you need to find a job. That's just how it goes. You're not going to sit around for 2 months now that you're 18. And even before, actually, when I was 16, I guess I had my first student job. But when I was 18, I went work for a chemical company in more like logistics. And then I moved to more marketing stuff. But yeah, that was kind of similar, like working as an intern every summer. And then when I finished my studies, they were like, hey, do you want to like stay with us?
That's great.
Yeah, I was like, yeah, sure. Because by then, like, all the people, the business, and it's a lot less stressful than finding your first job is super stressful. But when you know the people and all that, it makes it a lot easier.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So, yeah, man, we're recording this on the 21st, 21st December. It'll be going out quite a bit later, mid-January or something. But so this is the last episode I'm recording in 2021. So I do want to kind of like look back at 2021, the year that's been. How was 2021 for you? Did you have time to reflect on it yet? How was the year for you?
It's been wild, honestly.
Uh-huh.
I haven't even had that too much time to reflect on it, but 2021 is, of course, lockdowns, Corona, all the sad stuff. Nothing really happens anymore. But at the same time, it's a year where, like for me personally, I feel like my music career kind of took off is maybe too big a word, but it's really the year where I got the ball rolling.
Mm-hmm.
It's also the year where I went to the UK for the first time to play a gig there.
Yeah.
And it's also the year where I spent months sitting at home wishing I could go outside. So it's a double-edged sword, but there's definitely some highlights in there.
Yeah. What would be like a high for you if you look back at 2021? What would be like the first thing you think about? Like, yeah, that was really cool.
Oh, so it's definitely and like in the start of November, I actually got a gig at Community DMB, the event that's hosted by a few labels, including Goldvet in London. And I decided to just go over there, stay for like a week and a half in the UK, meet as many people as I possibly could, go to as many parties as I possibly could, and just kind of connect with it all. And it was really cool for me because just sitting abroad in another country, like I had never met some of the people before that I've been working with or have been in touch with for more than a year already. So it's especially the guy from Goldvet, also a lot of the people that I know through various music discords.
Mm-hmm.
And it's kind of weird when you feel like you're sort of close friends, but you've never even really met before.
Yeah.
So it was amazing to finally meet a whole lot of them.
Yeah. Yeah. I have a bit of a similar, like, I've met so many people through the podcast and doing a bit more music recently. And I've never met anybody yet.
Where do you live?
I'm in Dublin.
Oh yeah.
But like when I actually started the podcast, I was still in Hong Kong, so like not a lot of people are in Hong Kong, basically.
Yeah, and then I complain that I'm too far away in Amsterdam.
Yeah, because dude, like you in the Netherlands, you have like North Quarter guys and all that stuff. Like there's a lot of people in the Netherlands, for sure. I feel.
Yeah, the Dutch scene is it's definitely there, and you know that's a luxury in its own right. At the same time, you know, the biggest thing in the Netherlands is obviously liquidity. And then like the second biggest thing would be, I don't know, maybe like blackouts, at least like in terms of like events and like the things that get that draw a crowd.
Yeah.
There's Korsakov in Rotterdam, which is also quite a big event. But what you really see there is it's either like the happy liquidity kind of liquid dance floor, or something harder like neurofunk territory.
Yeah.
And the stuff that I kind of like, obviously, is a lot of jazzy, soulful, a little bit deeper. Like it's there, but it's there in like maybe, I don't know, 3-4 events a year, like 4 events that put on like, you know, liquid nights or deep nights, and that's kind of it. And that's through the whole of the Netherlands.
Yeah.
And then I see you know, what's happening in Bristol, or what's happening in even a city like Brighton or London itself, obviously, where it's every weekend you can choose for out of multiple parties with lineups that you could only dream of over here.
Yeah. So what was your highlight then of that trip specifically? Was it playing? Because you said you had your first show in the UK. Was that the highlight, or?
It's hard to tell, honestly. There were like multiple things for different reasons, but playing there definitely was one of them. I was on together with Dion. That's D.E.O.N. And Sophie Mari.
Yeah.
And Dion and I, we've done tracks before, 2 tracks together. One of them is out on differential, one of them is not out yet anywhere, but we have been working on some stuff together, and it was really cool to, you know, kind of perform that together, or rather see him perform the vocal parts of it. And also, like, I think about half of the Goldfed roster, if not more, they all came over to come and say hi. So it was definitely great night, and great meeting all of them.
Yeah. Did they have like a welcome party for you, of like welcome to the UK? And
pretty much, yeah.
That's really cool. How did you because I've spoken with a few with Might Case obviously, but a few other artists that have released on Goldfed, and they all kind of say the same thing, of that, like, I don't know, family vibe with Goldfed, with like a strong community.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Sorry, go ahead. Yeah.
And so we have a little private Facebook group. It's actually called the Fed Fam. But yeah, it's at Goldfed. It's really like you said. It's a family vibe, and what really stands out to me is that, like, you know, usually when there's you know, some big release on Hospital, other Hospital artists will push it. Same for any label, really. You know, people will push the stuff off the label they are on. But what really stands out to me with Goldfed is people will also push the stuff that's, like, for example, when Pixis does a release on Sunny Moves, or Irie does a release with Pilot, everyone is so like genuinely excited because a friend of ours made a big move, and you know, it's cool to see, and everyone supports it and posts about it, and that's really nice.
Yeah, but even like pushing music from the same label, I don't feel it happens that often within the smaller-ish labels. Like maybe like with Hospital, yeah, it's a bigger label and people push releases from each other. But in like the more liquid or just a smaller scene, Goldfat is definitely one that stands out. Like North Quarter is probably another, but it's a bit more established. But that's definitely one where when there's a release, there's 10 different posts from 10 different people on Instagram about that release.
Yeah, no, exactly. And that's the kind of thing that you want. And I've been, like, I'm also quite closely involved with the guys from Differential.
Mm-hmm.
And I've been telling them and trying to get it going there, that, you know, push that you're not, because a label, like everyone can, you know, get a, what's it called, DistroKid account and get their tunes uploaded to Spotify.
Yeah.
So like the logistical part of a label, that's really not relevant anymore, honestly. But the whole thing around it with the community and like the marketing push that you can create, and also support in A&R and finding opportunities for each other, like that's to me where a label adds value.
How did you discover Goldfat? How did you run into them initially? Because I think your first release was with them.
Honestly, my very first release was with High Tea Music, actually.
Okay.
The Dutch label.
Yeah.
But that was like early 2019. I'm very glad that they accepted my track, but looking back, I hadn't quite found my own sound yet. Of course, I'm not happy anymore about my old mixdowns.
Yeah,
but that's just like the fact
classic.
of life of being a producer.
Yeah.
No, but with Goldfat, it was one of the first releases that kind of kicked things off for me and got like I said, got a ball rolling. And honestly, I think I was just very, very lucky with a lucky coincidence in terms of timing, because so my friend Karijn, who's Lennis, he was doing a 2-tracker with them, and Art Origin, who's also a Dutch guy that I know, he had released with them before. And I thought, you know, what the hell, the back catalog, it sounds nice. My stuff would probably fit along in here, so I'm just gonna shoot them a message. So, hey, got your contact details through Karijn, through Lennis, and can I send you some demos? And so I sent something over, and they liked it, and you know, the rest is history. But yeah, like I said, I was very lucky with timing. As I learned later, you know, they were just transitioning from just a place where Might Kiss does his solo releases and the occasional release from someone else, to, you know, we're going to really push this and turn this into a serious label. And right as they were making that transition, I kind of showed up and said, hey, can I come along?
Did you have your tracks fully finished, like the two that, because it was a 2-tracker that came out, it was Flat Ground and I forget the other one.
Victorian Boulevard is the other one. Yeah.
Did you send like those 2 tracks like fully finished and done, or was it like one track and then they were like, oh yeah, this track is nice, can you send another one? How did that work?
Yeah, so I sent them fully, like they were complete. I wouldn't say they were done because there was still some back and forth with feedback, but they were definitely complete. And I think, especially when you're approaching a new label, you kind of want to make a good first impression.
Yeah.
So I would always say, you know, get something that you think is release ready. It will turn out it's not release ready, and it will get quite a bit of feedback. But, you know, get something that can make that first impression, and that can, because a label needs to say, hey, we can hear potential in this guy and in this this tune, and we want to work with him.
Yeah. And was the feedback mostly around mixdown for those tunes, or?
Ooh, that's a long time ago. I think for Victorian Boulevard, I remember I sent it over. Then I tweaked it myself some more on my own initiative. Mainly, I think I made it a little bit deeper. I got some of the high string pads and stuff out of there, and made it a bit more darker, deeper focused. And I remember just thinking, oh, this version is so much better, a lot better vibe. And then they were like, no, dude, we like the first version better. And and honestly, I think they were right in that one. So that was a good call of them to make.
Yeah. Yeah, it's hard to tell because like different people will like different things. Actually, I don't know if you saw a few days ago, Mike Kiss posted a story. I think it was him. Yeah, I'm pretty sure it was him, and he was saying a few things about what he learned from 2021, and one of them was listen less to people's opinions because everybody has their own opinions.
Yeah.
So it's funny because I guess he gives a lot of opinions on tracks
for sure.
Gold Fat.
And it's the same, because I agree with it, but also listen to opinions, but take in the context as well. You know, I know that when I send something over to Johnny, to Mightkiss, he is very much against cheesy stuff. He wants soulful. He wants he wants a vibe to it. If you, for example, would send a kind of Liquidity anthem style kind of track, I know he would hate that.
Yeah, well, it doesn't fit on Gold Fat either.
No, it doesn't, and it's not something that I make, so it kind of works out.
Yeah.
But it's important to like not be discouraged just because someone doesn't like your tracks, even if it's a big important person, a label, A&R, or a big artist. Because there's so many different tastes still, even for like a small time artist and starting out.
Yeah. The thing I love with Gold Fat is just the quality of their releases and the fact that they put out one release a month and that's it.
Yeah,
but it's going to be the best it can be.
Yeah, the pace. I don't know how they do it because the pace, like you said, every month there's another release. At the same time, for example, my EP, which came out recently, that has been in the works for I don't know, more than half a year, I think. Constantly going through feedback, changing out one tune for another one, trying to find a vocalist for this one, maybe switching something else out again, just more general feedback. And to then imagine like while we were doing it for like half a year or longer, they were also doing that for five other people. And
yeah.
I don't know how they do it, honestly.
Yeah.
But I'm very glad they do it.
Yeah. I remember when I had Mike Kiss on the podcast, I was telling him, any chance you can do like 2 releases a month, because one is like, it's not a lot. Like from a listener perspective, it's not a lot. And he was like, dude, there's no way we can do more than a month. Like that's the maximum amount of work we can do. So I was like, yeah, fair enough.
And also for like a smaller label such as this, you kind of need that time to ramp up your marketing, do some marketing after the release dates. If you do one every 2 weeks, for example, like there are some labels that kind of go for that approach, right? Every some even do it like every week. There's another release coming out. But personally, I usually kind of can tell in the quality of those, like the A&R isn't as in-depth on those kind of labels, and also marketing is often just one post, hey, we uploaded this, and then a few days later it's on to the next one.
Yeah, it's a completely different strategy, and like every label can decide what strategy they want to do. It's a free world, and everybody decides what labels they want to release with. It's just when, for me personally, when I see a label like Gold Fat, where I feel like they take their time with the releases and they really select, like, okay, this month we're only going to release 2 tracks from this artist, but they're going to be really good. And so that kind of keeps you waiting for like next month. It's like, it's going to be good.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I'm always so excited to get the Gold Fat promo too. Just because, like you said, it's going to be good. And then especially like for me, then it's also the whole family vibe. Like I know someone that I care about has made something really good, and that's super exciting.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it was the last. Was it their last release? Was the Kublai, and
It's actually the one before that.
what's?
Counterculture also came out
Oh yeah, Count.
recently.
Yeah, Count. Yeah, and see, that one was amazing too. The first one was it dub something, future dub or retro dub or I
Yeah.
forget the name of it, but that one I loved it. The one before, yeah, was Kublai, and like again, the
Oh
quality
man.
on those ones were like that's the kind of music I'd like to make. So atmospheric and
Yeah, Kublai is just insane, and
yeah,
I know he's making some big moves too. Like he got his stuff on Goldfed. At the same time, he's also doing CIA, where he has an EP or
oh
has
shit,
2 EPs out now. I
okay.
know he's doing stuff with Minor Forms on collabs. That guy he's gonna take off. I'm pretty sure of that.
Mm. He's one of the guys you met in the UK, right?
Yeah. It's actually he had me stay over at his place for
Oh, sick.
2 or 3 days there.
Oh,
Really
nice.
nice of him. Yeah, super sound guy.
He's also a nice dude.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Like it's super chill. It's funny actually. We were talking. Obviously, we were talking a lot about music and being an artist and all that. Just the kind of things that go on in our lives.
Mm.
And we are really on like the same page in terms of what we like, what kind of artists we like, but also how we view like a music as a career versus a hobby versus how serious do we take it. Really on the same page. It was kind of surprising and really cool to see.
Yeah, because you can't really dive into those topics when you're just on Discord or like you need to sit down with a beer and just talk.
Yeah, no, that's the thing. You have different conversations in real life than you do over Discord for sure.
Yeah. So when collab Auris and Kulai.
We did actually get something started.
You don't have to tell it.
No, it's no secret. I think I even put it on my Insta story, anyways.
Ah, cool. Okay.
But yeah, we got something started, but it's nowhere near completion yet.
Yeah. Well, these things take time anyway.
Yeah.
When you said that you kind of agree on how you view music, like career versus hobby, how do you view music? Like what you're doing now in music, how do you see it in your life?
So, because I still work full time, so I work 40 hours a week, and I do music on the side of that. But at the same time, I'm also seeing, wait a second, I actually made it onto UKF, and I'm actually getting quite some nice responses on my music. What if maybe one day, and it's all like wishful thinking and dream for the future right now, but I'm definitely like I have the idea to scale back, maybe work 4 days in a week, spend one day just fully on music stuff, and then as also all the time that I'm already on top of the time that I'm already spending on music, of course, and kind of see what I can make happen from there. It's like maybe one of my short-ish term goals to grow big enough and get enough income out of it that I can sort of afford to work one day a week less.
That would be amazing to start off with.
So it's definitely more than like just a hobby at this point, but it's definitely not a career yet.
And so if you like envision yourself full-time music, is that really your goal? Is that what you aspire to?
No, I don't think I would go full-time music, but maybe what LSB has been doing. He talked about it on the Must Make podcast, which he was on. He does like 3 days of a regular job and then the rest of the week spent on music stuff.
Yeah,
I think that would kind of be the right balance for me too, just because I like being able to steadily pay my rent and get groceries and stuff. So obviously a very practical one, but also I like not having that much of a pressure to put out a certain thing, a certain sound, or a certain something that like will please a crowd or anything. Because I've spoken to a few artists who are like full time on music, and it can get really stressful to say, well, I kind of want to explore this sound that's like way out there compared to my other stuff, but I know it won't sell as much and I won't get as many gigs and I need to pay rent. So I might not do it as quickly.
Okay, we're recording again.
We're recording again. Perfect.
Welcome back after this short break.
This short interlude where the cable dropped on the spacebar and
the recording stopped. Yeah.
So we were just talking about music full time and how it's kind of a tricky one. Of obviously we love music, we love making music, but then if you picture yourself relying on music to actually live, then it becomes like a different question almost.
Yeah, I think that it would make it very stressful.
Yeah.
Like I was saying, I think it really limits you in your creativity, where you're just constantly like, even if you try to ignore it, it will be in the back of your mind that, okay, if I maybe stray from my sounds, I won't get any gigs for the next release. And it's going to influence your creativity, and I've seen it also lead to not quite burnout, but like creative struggles, where people like they weren't really feeling their current stuff. They want to like spread out or try different stuff, but then feeling limited, and they end up making nothing at all.
Yeah,
which is even worse, honestly.
Yeah, I think I don't know. I don't think it's something you can really choose. Of like, I'm choosing to do music full time. I think it must almost feel like an obligation of like, this is the only thing I can do, because if I do a regular job or if I do something else, I'm just not going to be happy. This is like the only option for me, almost.
Yeah, and also because for me, the regular job enables a lot of things within music too. When I need a new sound card just because I want to connect some gear, which I can't right now, I'm like, okay, I have a regular income, I can just go and buy one.
Yeah.
Or maybe a better example, when I want to go on a trip to the UK for a week and a half, that trip, it turned out crazy expensive, mostly because I didn't plan ahead very well.
What aspects? The party aspect, or?
So I decided, I had a little schedule of, okay, so at first I'm going to be in London for the community event. I'm going to stay around there for a few days, catch a few more parties, meet some people. Then I was going to go up to Manchester to meet up with Richard.
Mm-hmm.
And I drove through the Peak District, which is like a really beautiful bit of nature in the UK. And I wanted to go down to Brighton and visit Jamal Kublai. So I decided I'm going to go by car and go on the ferry. But then there's stuff like parking a car in London or even driving around in London, because what I didn't know, or what I should have researched but I didn't, is that there's like the ultra low emission zone, and then there's the congestion charge zone, and then going out of London there's some random toll roads. And those kind of things all add up.
I'm sure all the people from London listening to this podcast now are like, yeah, of course.
He's such an idiot. And honestly, you're right. But yeah, and also just eating out every day, I was able to go on the trip and very last minute decide, okay, yeah, sure, I'll come along to that whatever event that is and just have a few drinks and don't mind like the price too much. And I know if I was to work full-time in music, I would never be able to afford any of it.
Yeah, unless you went there to play like 5 shows in 2 days, and then that kind of
yeah. But I think it's gonna be a long time before I get to that kind of level.
Yeah, no, for sure. How did you enjoy the actual show of like playing there? I don't know if you've played a lot live before in the Netherlands or not.
Yeah, I've done quite a few things in the Netherlands. Like a few weeks before I went to London or to the UK, I had a show in Eindhoven in the south of the Netherlands. It was quite a large venue, and it was back to back with Stijk, Justin, who's also a differential, but also just a close friend of mine. But yeah, the show in London was definitely cool. Especially, like I said, it was the first time I was together with Dion and really have a vocalist just for my set and not just the MC that hosts the night, you know. And so yeah, it was really cool to do that for once.
Yeah. Did you have any like, I don't know, stress or anxiety of playing there and having the good fat people there and be like added pressure because of that, or?
No, I'm don't really stress about those kind of things in general. I don't know how or why I've like overcome that, but for me, stepping in front of a crowd or onto a stage, it's just, well, here we go and let's do it. And I don't really feel that much stress beforehand, weirdly enough.
Lucky you.
Yeah, for sure. I know stage fright can be quite troublesome to some people.
Yeah. I've spoken to people that still get stage anxiety or whatever after years and years of doing either music or like theater or stuff like that. Even professionals talk about it, of like having panic attacks before going on stage, and it's like, yeah, I don't know. Yeah, some people have it, and then some people are just really chill.
Yeah, I'm blessed to say that I'm really chill about it, and I can just like go on stage and I'll just see what happens, and I'll just wing it pretty much.
Yeah. So a topic I wanted to talk to you about is more around your sound, because you have a quite distinctive sound, which for all purposes we'll call jazzy, even if it's a bit more complex than that. But that's the first term that comes to mind when somebody hears your music. So kind of curious where does that influence come from? Is it your childhood, or did it come later in your life?
It actually came later. So I think even it came after I started making drum and bass. I wasn't really that much into jazz. Like I wasn't consciously listening to any of it. But as I was making drum and bass, I was like, okay, well, I'm making very basic chords and it's not sounding very nice. And I started learning more about music theory, getting quite deep into that. Even though I can't really play piano yet, but I can describe chords and voicings and all that. And once I kind of started learning those things, I'm like, I kind of figured out that, yeah, you know, seventh chords, ninth chords, dissonance and weird harmonies, that's the kind of sounds my ears pick up on, and the sounds that I like. And I still sometimes struggle with creating good chord progressions. Like for every nice track that I make, I have like 10 chord progressions would have a lot of harmonies and a lot of weird jazzy voicings in them, but like no emotion to them, and I just bin all of them.
Do you actually bin them, or do you just leave them on a hard drive and come back to them later?
It kind of depends on how far along I go into the project before I decide to bin it. But I kind of do both. Sometimes I'm just playing chords for a whole evening, and then at the end of the evening, no, it's still not working, and I just bin it. Sometimes I am like halfway done through a track, but it's not quite there yet. And then when I listen maybe with fresh ears the next day, I'm thinking, well, the core concept of the track is not quite there, so this is never gonna work. And it just kind of sits around abandoned. But yeah, the jazzy stuff,
I think a lot of it started with wanting to sample those kind of sounds. You know, I thought to myself, I want to make jazzy drum and bass. I'm gonna need piano, saxophone, trumpets. So I started listening to jazz with the intent of finding stuff to sample, and I still do that a lot. But then as I went along, I also started building up my own playlist of just jazzy things that I like, which is one of my go-to playlists that's on all day now.
Is it mostly instrumental jazz, or because I'm really not familiar with the whole jazz world? So
yeah, so I'm honestly not the best person to ask either. I listen to a whole lot of it, but I just know, hey, I like this one or I don't like this one. And
okay.
I know there's like certain different styles. There's like bebop and hard bop and modal jazz and all subgenres pretty much. But I can barely identify any one of them if just by ear. But yeah, so what I do a lot is I just find random playlists on Spotify, find some random word, maybe summer jazz or
lounge jazz,
or I sometimes go by country, so I'll listen to Austrian jazz or to Romanian jazz.
What does that sound like?
Just like jazz, honestly. It's not. I haven't quite identified a very distinct sound in any of them. I'm sure some local jazz enthusiast somewhere will hate me for saying that.
Probably, yeah.
But honestly, that's more due to me not knowing like a lot of the backgrounds, what's to it. And that's something that I have been trying to learn. On YouTube through guys like there's Charles Cornell or Adam Neely, who both make YouTube videos around music. They kind of deconstruct, like they will take a song and say, oh, it's so cool that they take this 1-5-2, which is like a reverse version of this chord progression, and then they switch the keys to this and this. And I find it very cool to watch. I could never figure it out on my own, but then once I hear it, then I gain a deeper appreciation for it. And I've been trying to learn to play the piano as well.
Nice.
Which is a slow progression, mostly because I keep slacking off and not putting in the proper time for it.
Are you taking classes or just by yourself on YouTube?
Yeah, it's I'm taking online classes by Charles Cornell, which is one of those YouTubers. He has this whole online academy thing, whole training program to learn to play piano. But you go through it at your own pace, follow a lesson when you can and when you feel like it. And I'm just slacking off way too much. I should have been done with the first course like over the summer, but I'm only halfway through.
It's priorities. You can't do everything all the time. So.
No, for sure. That's the thing.
Yeah, I love watching those. I watch a few from Adam Neely. He's like a mastermind. He's really good at like deconstructing even like pop songs and saying like why they're actually really good. I don't know if you saw the last one. He talked about this French Belgian singer called Stromae. Yeah, and he was talking about his last track, Santé, and how the rhythm is like...
Yeah, the rhythm is really swung in a weird way, but really cool, yeah.
Yeah, and then he describes everything of how, like every snare hit has been advanced by 16th note, and I forget what the rest was, but you're like, how did you hear that? How are you able to identify that? It's crazy.
Yeah, and with my own music, I sometimes, especially if I write something right after watching one of those kind of videos, I try and do weird shit like that in my own music. And sometimes it can work.
Yeah.
A lot of times it does not, but it definitely makes it more interesting.
Yeah. Yeah, and it kind of sparks ideas as well.
Yeah.
Just trying something and maybe it doesn't work, but you've tried something and then you get another idea and then maybe that one will work. I know I tried at some point, like, I don't know if it was him or somebody else, they were talking about a specific, I don't know if it was a cadence or something, I forget, and it's like this movement that goes, if your key is in one, like in C major, you go like 4 major, 4 minor, and then back to the root, C major. And it's like a very typical progression. It's like in Don't Look Back in Anger by Oasis and a lot of Beatle tracks. And it's like this really cool progression of like major, minor, the same chord, and then back to the root. And it sounds really awesome. And I heard that and I was like, brilliant, I'm going to try that on my own tune.
Yeah, no, it's actually a cool way, it's almost like sampling.
Yeah.
I think I've heard Willem talk about this sometime, where he will go find, a nice soul tune that he likes, or jazz or whatever. And rather than trying to cut out a sample and, working from there, he will sample just through figuring out the chord progression and then building a track around that. Like not like cutting it out and sampling it, but just playing the same chord progression and going from there.
Yeah. I think you mentioned something similar on when you went on Winslow's podcast. You talked about like taking FD tunes and just like copying the bass line and just like just taking the same arrangement for the bass line and just creating your track like that.
Yeah, well, maybe like not as literally as like actually taking over a bass line, but no. So when I make music, I approach it either from one or of 2 ways. One of them is something emotional has happened, like I'm feeling a strong emotion, and I want to like write music to get it out of my system and to process it, which is where I write much more free form, just, okay, does this chord have the right kind of sadness? No, this one does. Okay, yeah, but then, there's also this positive aspect to what happened, so I'm gonna like do a little bit melancholic, happy, and that's kind of the process as I'm writing. And then the other way that I approach a tune is there's something new and I want to figure out how to make it. And something new can be something music theory related, a certain kind of chords, or can be sound design related. How do you make deep liquid like Monty or Visages? And then just a certain thing that I picked up on and I want to figure it out and try and if I can make that my own. I think that's what I was talking about in that podcast with Winslow, where I'm really a big fan of FD, and all his music is really, really nice. But to really take a bass line, and I think that was talking about his more darker kind of tunes at that point. And take out one of those sounds out of it and just try and see, okay, can I approach something that sounds similar? And I've actually done a whole lot of that for FD tunes, but also for stuff like DLR or the Sauce or Waze or some of the other Sofa Sound guys. Just try and see, okay, this sound, can I make something that's sort of similar? And also, because I spent a whole like month or 2 this year trying to figure out that more, I guess, the Sofa Sound-esque style. And I would really just like make all those sounds, and I now have a whole folder of just presets with all these kind of growly, screamy mid-bass sounds. And then I really went in, okay, so how do they do the composition? And I found that usually it will be quite like you have the main idea, which is the sick bass sound design exercise, some strong but quite minimal drums, and then every phrase will have like 20 or more different effects hits just to kind of fill it out. And like I really analyze it down to that kind of detail and specific, like that specifically. And then I tried to do it myself. I take some of these bass sounds, I create some drums, and I put a whole bunch of effects in, try and see if I can figure out a similar sound.
It's interesting that you take sofa sound as an example, because I wouldn't.
It's quite out there for my kind of stuff, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
No, it's something. I think, especially now with the last EP of mine that came out, for me personally, that was also sort of a milestone. Like, okay, this sound, I got it down. I can nail this sound now. What's the next thing that I'm gonna learn? And I've heard it's also being described as a bit of a risk, or like a trap you can fall into, where you try to change your sound every other release or so. But I'm definitely now, the stuff I'm working on now, it's broadening my scope a bit. Some is a bit more dark rollers. What's the name? Like more like Monty Visage's Alex Perez kind of liquid.
Yeah, I just call it deep liquid. I don't know.
Yeah, deep liquid. Yeah. I also have some stuff, like I said, sofa sound inspired.
Okay.
And I sometimes just do random experiments where at some point I heard that album. It's on Metalhead's.
Grey Code?
No, it's one of the lesser known guys.
I'm not
I think it's something like
Metalheads.
Metalworks or Steamworks. It's something engine room kind of name.
Okay.
And it had those classic big Metalheads drums, just one or two breaks layered, but every hit was bam in your face.
Yeah.
And there's this sense of room to it. It's probably not a sound that I'm going to be releasing a lot of, but it's something that I just wanted to see, can I make this? So I spent a few attempts just trying, can I make those kind of drums? And I find that doing all those sort of exercises, even though more, like I think a big majority of them they will never see the light of day, but they do help me shape my own sounds in a way that's more than just, okay, I can make I can throw some spice loops together.
Yeah, and I think there's always there's always something to learn from other styles, even though you're not gonna actually like release them. If you learn a super gritty bass sound, that can actually, if you just take that in isolation, that could fit over a jazzy arrangement, for example.
Oh yeah, what I do a lot is where I will have, and I think you can hear this in like my stuff that's out now already, where I will have a bass which is maybe just a simple 808 or even a sine sub or quite a deep reese, and then just have the occasional wah wah or other like sound. You could fit it into a like into an info tune, but it's also, I just put it into my jazzy tune and it kind of fits in there.
Yeah, there's a few guys that do that really well. Like one that comes to mind is Telamic. I feel he has a pure liquid sound, but he has a lot of like these gritty basses that open up during the track. And Colossus Toby does that quite a lot as well. Very liquid sound, but then a lot of those kind of almost neuro basses, but just very high passed, so it's kind of just echoey.
And it gives a little bit more of an edge to something that's otherwise can be quite tame music.
Exactly, tame.
Yeah,
I like that, because if you stick to your like piano and strings, it can be a bit harmless.
Yeah, no, that's the thing, and I see that a lot in like especially with newer producers who, obviously when you're starting out, you're finding your sound and stuff, that's fine, but some producers, they really kind of get stuck on a certain level where they have found a way to like get one sound down. I sometimes kind of describe it as pad and bass, which you find often.
What do you call it?
pad and bass.
Bad and bass.
No, pad as in
Oh,
PAD.
pad
as
and
in-
bass. Okay, yeah.
Because there's a lot of like these atmospheric sounds, just a deep bass under it, and it's always the same kind of drums. And even there, that sound on its own, it isn't bad, but the way Dalmau does it, to like reference the one master of the pad and bass sound, the way Dalmau was, they take a lot of influences, like they sample a lot more, they in like musically interesting ways, they will get gritty bass in there just occasionally, even though that's not their main thing, and they will like it's in there, and it takes their tracks to a higher level.
Yeah.
Whereas if you take just the pads and the bass, it's kind of a bland track.
A blend
often.
track. Yeah, it's kind of like a space filler.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
I get that definitely. It's
that's also for me something that really was an eye opener. Was like, even though I'm not very far with it yet, starting to learn to play the piano. Because now I have some chords down. Sometimes I still sample them out of a jazz track. Sometimes I write them myself. Maybe a few, I don't know, let's say some saxophone hits. I'm just like writing down the formula of how to be Auris right here.
yeah. I'm steal that.
But and then at some point you're like, okay, I need something else to fill this track. And I will now just try and improvise a melody over it, something which I never did before, because writing a melody is intimidating if you're just trying to draw it in an Ableton from scratch without any, how do you say, any feel for it.
Yeah, just clicking.
yeah, and it's really hard to get a nice melody that way, but it's really freeing in terms of creativity, that you can think, okay, the track, it's sort of this maybe let's say a melancholic vibe. Do I want to take it a little more happy, or do I want to make it a little more sad for this part? You can just write something or play something that's happy or sadder,
Yeah.
rather than trying to rely on finding the right samples. So that's really, and then it's the same with do I want to make it a little bit more rough for this section? I do. Well, okay, I can, because I spent time learning how to make those basses.
Yeah.
So even when you,
it's interesting when you were talking about your two approaches to making music, and it kind of, I don't know, this is maybe a stretch. It kind of reminded me of like the way you studied marketing and you enjoyed that, but it was a bit too much fluff, and then you had to switch to something more like engineering, which was more like concrete and like designing stuff. It kind of felt similar.
That's actually an interesting connection to make there. Yeah.
Kind of felt that way to me, of like you're feeling a certain way and that's maybe a bit fluffy, and you write music, but then you need times where you're like doing sound design and nailing down a specific sound.
Yeah, and also kind of identifying those two ways of approaching music. Like I usually won't make a very conscious decision, like, okay, today I'm fluffy, today I'm engineering, but some days you will sit down and try to write something and it's just not coming out right. And it's very nice to then be able, like, say, okay, well, I've I had a chill day at work, I slept well, and I'm very motivated to do something right now, but it's not coming out. I'm just going to go and do the more engineering technical side of things.
Yeah.
Because that's a little less dependent on, creative flow state or whatever.
Yeah.
And it also allows me to, I guess, be on the grind a lot more. As I'm not just trying to always make a new tune, which you can never do that every single day.
Yeah.
But also just spend a good evening just making bass sounds, making new drum breaks or something of that sort.
Yeah. I think that's one part that I'm missing, because I don't do any sound design except when I'm actually in a track, and during the track I might need a melody and then I'll quickly do something, but I rarely do like sound design sessions. And so usually if I'm writing a song or something and it's not coming, as you said, then I'm just frustrated, and that's it.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's actually something I sometimes talk about with newer producers. A lot of people, they are hindering themselves in being creative just because they don't have their process down or optimized.
Yeah.
So, and it's something I spent quite a lot of time on. And like it's the really basic stuff, like creating smart defaults, creating a template set in your DAW to work from, to like more in-depth stuff, which is maybe creating your own breaks, creating your own drums, creating those bass sounds or synth patches, maybe some pad patches that you can use. So when I, for example, say the piano does work out and I'm writing something and I think, yeah, this is a cool piano, I have a whole folder with a lot of breaks that I chopped sometime earlier myself. I have a folder of kicks that I made myself, and the same with snares. And like I can go this break, this break, this break, maybe a head layer, maybe a shaker, kick, snare. Okay, we have drums that fit the piano. Back into the flow state and writing some more.
Yeah, you're not stuck on finding a drum break for like half an hour.
Exactly, because if you do that, and if you then first think, okay, well, this drum break, it's nice, but I need to EQ it better, I need to trench and shape it, compress it, I don't know, all these kind of things you do with drums. And by the time your drums are sounding nice, you've lost your flow state and you're just stuck with drums and a piano and nothing else to go with it.
Yeah, process and workflow is like half the battle, at least.
Yeah, and it's so underestimated by a lot of people.
Yeah.
But it makes such a big difference, such a big impact on what you can write.
Yeah, definitely. The other topic that's obviously linked to music, but not directly writing music, and that's also a huge part of the battle, is marketing. You talked a bit about it with Winslow, and I talk about it from time to time on this podcast, because it's I think it's a topic we agree that people don't spend enough time on. What are kind of your opinions on marketing yourself as an artist within drum and bass?
Yeah, so we've just arrived at the halfway point of the show, because I can go on for another hour about this one.
Brilliant. Let's do it.
It's definitely something that beginning artists, even some bigger artists too, spend way too little time and attention on. And because even you don't need to constantly be go around vlogging every part of your day, like you don't need to start doing makeup tutorials just to get an audience.
That's an idea, actually.
But at the same time, just doing a little bit of marketing for yourself, it helps so much. Because I'm 100% sure that if you come out with some music, people think, hey, that's the nice guy from the podcast. So cool that he's making moves now. Whereas if people say, just see like a name on some artwork and a link to a Spotify, and it might, like, the same track sounds just as good. Well, sure, it sounds nice, but I don't know this guy, so I might add this to my playlist, and then the audience is gone again. Like, people, I feel, and that's especially for like the small time artists, such as myself. I can't. I've been to the studio that Hospital has at their office.
Nice.
Johnny Meitke showed me around.
Oh, sick.
They have this whole huge setup where they do all the Hospital Hub streams from. They have like 4 decks of the newest CDJ 3000s. They have the nice decorations in the back. They have this whole frame of trusses with cameras, like 3 different DSLR cameras, soft boxes, a whole video live mixing booth kind of deal. You know, I just got this room over here with my shoddy looking acoustic panels.
Yeah, looks good.
Obviously, I can't match that kind of production that a hospital or a solvent or any of those guys can. But I can make a connection with people, even just, and it's just small things, right? The difference between posting the artwork of your next release versus just taking your phone, just doing a video. Hey guys, my new release is out. I've worked really hard on this. I'm really proud of it and I'm super excited. Go have a listen. Just a simple selfie video, just to show, you know, this is a person that you're actually engaging with. This artist is not just a Spotify profile, but there's a person behind it. I feel like that's something you can like really make a difference to like get a following versus just, you know, being another name.
Yeah. And I think the crucial aspect in that also is you need to show that you value your music and your art. Because if you don't value it, or maybe you value it, but if you don't portray that excitement and the fact that you're proud, why would anyone spend 15 minutes of their day to listen to your EP?
For sure.
If you don't seem excited, or, you know, and for me, that's like one issue I have with producers sometimes. And again, everybody does what they want. It's a free world and all of that. But sometimes I see an artist that will just post, "Hi, my new EP is out next Friday."
Yeah.
And that's it. And you're like, okay, but there's probably like 35 EPs coming out next Friday, so I can't listen to all of them. And if I see a video of Auris doing a selfie and saying, "Hey guys, I've got this new tune out," well, I'll probably check that one instead. So
yeah, and it's also like, I'll try not to name any name and shame on here because, but I've known plenty of examples of that kind of stuff. Where, and it's people I know personally, and I know they have been slaving away at an EP or at a release for, you know, sometimes months or half a year or longer even. And then as soon as they have it all finished and they're really proud, telling all their telling friends, like personally, I'm so proud. It's getting out, coming out next week. I'm so excited. And then one post, and maybe they will put it in a story as well, and that's it. And I'm like, you're super proud of it, but you're not showing that you're proud of it and how excited you are. So how is your audience going to be excited about it?
Yeah. And I don't think we're not trying to shame anybody or anything like that, because I think for a lot of people it's not that easy to like
that's true.
Jump on a video and start talking to the camera. It's very unnatural.
Oh yeah, no, it's but that's the thing, and I know this from firsthand experience because it's super unnatural for me as well. That podcast I did with Duncan, with Winslow, I have never once listened back to it.
Oh no!
Just because I couldn't stand hearing my own voice. Like I've tried and I got it like 4 minutes in, and then I had to turn it off again.
That's the same with everyone. Don't worry.
But yeah, it's super unnatural. And even when I make a selfie video, I'm like, okay, am I saying dumb shit? Am I pronouncing stuff in a weird way? You become hyper aware of those things. But at the same time, it's a matter of, well, very bluntly, just to get over it. And because people don't expect you to, you know, be polished and be a experienced reporter doing a item. They know it's just an artist talking to himself on a webcam, and that's fine, because that's, in a way, that might even be better, just because it shows really, like, it's a personal thing. There's not, it's not a big marketing push from a company.
Yeah, and I think there's a million ways also to like market yourself. It's obviously recording a video or selfies. That's one way, but I think you can just maybe share pictures of your studio, or share a picture of like I don't know, like this was the park bench where I sat down when I had the idea to write this song, or like just a bit of background behind tunes. Sometimes it doesn't have to be like super personal, just doing that like 1% extra on top of your release can make a huge difference, I think.
Yeah, I'm actually so the guys from Differential, they the guys who run it are all close friends of mine, and like starting next or so release, I'm helping them with marketing.
Oh, nice.
And I've just like one of the first things I've done was like just create a list of ideas. Just okay, this is these are things that an artist can do to push their own release. And the way we're gonna approach it is very much okay. You are the artist. This is your release. We are here to support you, but you need to connect with the audience. And again, it can be many things. Like I said, just a selfie versus a picture of the arts, a huge improvement. But also, like you said, that this is the park bench where I got the idea of this track, or doing a small Q&A on Instagram stories, or doing a listening party on Discord where you listen to the tracks and in between you talk about what the idea is. Or even just creating a post with a few quotes in it.
Yeah, I think I did that for my last. I had a collab with Henry on his EP on Delta 9, and we had a track together on there. And I just wrote like 3 posts on Instagram, but it was just text, and it was a bit of the background on how that track came about, because it was a bit different for me. I started on guitar for that track and wrote the lead melody and all of that on guitar, and that was kind of a different way for me to approach a track. I thought it was kind of interesting to share, so I kind of just wrote it down, but it wasn't like personal or anything. It was just writing a bit of background on the track. I don't know if it made a huge difference, but I know it's better than nothing. So,
like it that's the thing. Don't expect these kind of things to make a big difference. Like, okay, my last release got 1,000 plays. Now I'm gonna make a few personal story posts, and I'm gonna make a video, and now I expect 10,000 plays. No, that's not the way this kind of stuff works. But it's more long term. Obviously, a great example of this is Winslow.
Yeah. The marketing guru.
He has been making videos for such a long time now about all kinds of drum and bass related stuff. It's not even just to push a release, but just also to push his own presence, pretty much.
Yeah.
And also just because he likes making them. But it really helps because now you don't see, so a good example here is the Future Symptoms release that Hospital does. There's quite a few new names on there. Every time they, like, that's the whole point of the series, that they put new names on those releases. And honestly, most of the times I don't really bother listening that much. Whereas when Winslow was on there, everyone was like, whoa, the humble, funny guy from the US, he made it onto Hospital. I'm so excited for him.
Yeah.
Just because even maybe you've never spoken to him, but it will feel like you have a sort of connection, sort of investment in them making steps into like making progress. And yeah, that's it makes a big difference. And obviously, when you're Winslow, you're spending a whole lot of time editing videos. He has invested in like a proper good camera setup, and I don't know, all these kind of things. But even just starting out very basic, it makes such a big difference.
Yeah. To be fair, I think that track on Future Symptoms was it Amore? I think that was the one.
Yeah, I think that's the one. Yeah.
That's an insane track. It's so good. Like, you don't need to market that track. It's amazing.
Well, yeah, and that's it goes without saying that you can't sell a shitty product. I mean, you can, but it's going to take a lot of effort.
Yeah, no, for sure.
So, but once you are releasing on labels, for example, you are at the level where your stuff is worth it. You are worth it. No, but once you're at that level, it's definitely it makes a difference. If you are excited about your music and you show that you're excited about your music, others will get excited for you.
Yeah, and then they might share it. They might share it more easily as well.
Yeah, like people will share it. People will maybe make a Instagram post or something.
Yeah.
And also doing this kind of stuff, that's the other side of it. Like the whole algorithm of either Facebook or Instagram or TikTok, if you're still if you're on there, or if I don't know whatever you're using, they heavily favor faces and content that feels personal. I know something that Johnny Mightkis has been doing for his own music announcements is to just say, okay, here's a selfie of myself and then another photo that's the cover art.
Yeah, you see that a lot.
Yeah, a lot of people are doing it now because that's the algorithms, they favor that kind of stuff where it's more personal. In the same way that they favor videos over images over text.
Yeah, and I think even like getting into like the nitty gritty of Instagram marketing, but even having several pictures is usually a good idea, because when people swipe, they'll see the first one, but if they come back a few hours later and they're swiping again, they'll probably see the second one, and so your post actually shows up twice in their feed rather than once.
And honestly, this is the kind of stuff where marketing becomes guesswork again, because Instagram obviously doesn't tell how their algorithm works, because everyone would just try and game it.
Yeah.
But I think that when you like swipe through multiple pictures, they also register that as engagement.
Probably. Yeah, I'm sure.
Where they will think, okay, so this post is interesting, so we're going to show it to more people.
Yeah, definitely. And yeah, I know like hashtags, for example, I post every week, probably once or twice on my Last Week Liquid account. I always have the same hashtags, like 15 hashtags around drum and bass. And I can see my stats every time I look. From time to time, every post will get maybe 30% of people that were not following me, so that they saw it because of the hashtags. So every post you're reaching 30% that are not following you. That's huge.
Yeah. That's so. I'm actually gonna go over to your Insta and look at which hashtags you're using.
It's just the regular ones like DNB, and like there's nothing special about them. But the other thing is regular consistency, and that's something all the social media platforms value. And obviously, you don't want to fall into the trap of posting every day if it's not natural. But trying to post once or twice a week just helps. It tells you get favored by the algorithm, basically. But
and maybe it's not even so much the algorithm there, but something that I've personally really been noticing is once you show that you're constantly active, you're present, and you're putting yourself out there, people will start to notice that and also reach out to you.
Yeah.
Where being asked to come on this podcast is a good example of that.
Yeah, definitely.
If after every release I would just crawl back into my studio and not reappear until the next release.
Yeah, probably wouldn't have asked you. Yeah.
Then you wouldn't have noticed that I'm out here, and it's the same with being asked to play maybe a radio show here or there, or even for gigs. It definitely helps to have that presence. So even if you're not building an audience and you're maybe not seeing it in the stats or in the numbers, then you are still, without knowing it, probably you're opening doors for yourself.
Yeah, definitely.
Creating new opportunities.
Yeah, and you'll only be able to connect those dots once you've had the opportunity down the line, and then you'll see, it's because I was posting and they saw this post and whatever.
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah, no, definitely. Again, at least I personally don't want to like shame anybody that's not super active on social media.
It's also part of it. I've had this. I was actually talking to Dustkey, Peter,
Yeah.
who has some music on differential and also on liquidity. He does none of this stuff.
Yeah.
And I asked him, like, why not? Why don't you, put in a little bit of that effort and then open more doors for yourself? And he actually had a very nice answer to that. He said, he makes music for his own gratification, his own satisfaction he gets out of it. And he's quite content with how he does that now and how things go now. So he doesn't feel like he needs to push it more, and because he's happy with how fast the ball was rolling, how quickly things are happening.
Yeah.
And that's also a very valid answer. Do you really want to push it? And
a lot of people don't want to push it.
No.
I've spoken to people that don't play a lot of gigs, that don't play gigs at all, and that's not their objective actually, and they don't check their Spotify or anything. They just like making music, so they put it out, but they don't really check Spotify numbers or anything. It's just like they make music and that's it, and that's fine.
No, for sure. That's also a very valid approach. At the same time, I sometimes do talk to people who they want to push it, or they talk about wanting to push it, but they don't. And there, I think it's a real missed opportunity to not try and get yourself out there a little more.
Yeah. It all comes down to like what your actual goals are, and then are you putting the necessary steps in place to reach that goal? Because you can have a goal and then not do anything and complain about it, and nothing's gonna happen then.
No, that's the thing. It's about kind of managing yourself and your own the time you're putting in, the work you're putting in.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
I think another really good one to touch upon is just on your social media, be nice to others, whether especially within the scene, other producers. I think a real good example of this is Irie, who says it, who's from Sri Lanka. So pretty much all his interactions with the drum and bass scene are happening online. And the guy is always, it doesn't matter what you're doing, but if he knows you and you're doing something cool, a release, a radio show, or a podcast, doesn't matter. He will put it in a story and just repost it for you, share it for you. Always hard reacting everything. And it really shows, because now whenever he has something out, he's doing something, everyone is returning the favor, and he's just getting a huge boom in engagements. And of course, that's talking about it very mechanically almost. It's important that this happens from a genuine
for sure,
interest.
But I think what you realize is most people in our scene are nice people. And it's just a question of if you're a nice person, just kind of show it, just express it, and don't be shy of commenting and sharing stuff. And that you don't have to do it with a specific I'm gonna get this in return from this person, whatever, because that probably won't happen. It's more just portraying a positive vibe, and definitely agree with that point.
It's something that I was doing, I think last week or the week before. Well, there was a whole bunch of sick releases all on the same Friday. So I just made a little Insta story, gotta share this with you guys, there's so much good music. And then there's I shared just one story after another of Spotify, just share to story, tag the artist, tag the label. And it's just nice little conversations. They don't really mean much on their own, but I don't know, for example, Fissages had this new remix on the North Quarter. And he just said, he hard reacted and said, thank you for supporting. And I was like, sick tune.
Yeah.
And on its own, it's not a big thing, but the next time he sees my name somewhere, he might think, oh wait, he was the guy who gave me a compliment sometimes.
Yeah. Yeah, I know, definitely. Yeah.
Or and obviously that's a bit of bigger artist, so I don't really expect much to happen there. But also talking of artists who are more on the same level in terms of following, in terms of what labels they release on. Sometimes it's just like, hey, I really like this tune. Oh, I like your stuff too. It's really nice. Do you want to collab?
Yeah.
And not with the intention of, okay, I'm gonna approach them for a collab. It happens more naturally, just because you're being nice to each other.
Yeah. Yeah, no, absolutely. I can totally echo that with I was talking about Henry, and he came on quite early on the podcast, like episode 8, like a year ago. And he's like one of the guys that really inspired me to get more into Liquid, because I just love his stuff. And we kept in contact afterwards, and he said, oh yeah, by the way, if you want to send me any tunes like for feedback, which I did like a few months later, he gave me great feedback that I like still use to this day. And then a few months later, he was like, oh, by the way, if you want to like collab on something, if you want to send me something, do that. And then we had a track on Delta 9. I was like,
yeah, that's sick.
That's amazing.
Yeah. And no, I do the same thing when people are nice to me, or like they approach me like, hey, I really like your music. It's really cool how you did that bass. Can you tell me how you do it? You bet you're gonna get a whole essay dissecting my own bass sounds.
He's
just
gonna
because
regret
I'm
asking.
getting a compliment.
He's gonna regret asking for it.
Yeah, no, for sure.
Let's schedule a Zoom call for 2 hours, and I'll tell you all about jazz chords.
Like, I think with I approached Paul SG at some point in a similar way. Like, hey, I really dig your stuff. Love the vibe with the jazzy stuff. Do you? And I know I asked him some question like, do you sample a lot, or do you write it yourself? And he got like a whole in-depth reply of how he approaches making a tune and all that.
Ah, that's sick.
Just because you ask nicely and you give someone a compliment, it can really get you far sometimes.
When Jazsticks release?
Oh, that's actually an interesting question.
You don't have to discuss anything.
No, it's I don't think it's secret. I mean, it's not officially announced or anything, but I have 2 tracks that I signed there a whole while ago. I think more than a year ago already. But they are kind of on the shelf right now, and they need to be dusted off and picked up again, and brought to release pretty much. But yeah, I do have 2 tracks there that Paul showed interest in.
That's sick, man.
Yeah. No, it's absolutely because it's a label that has had a huge influence on shaping my sound.
Yeah, definitely. Like Jazzman on Jazsticks just makes sense.
It completes the meme.
Yeah, match made in heaven. Yeah, no, definitely. I'm looking forward to those, man. Jazsticks is obviously like super like established name at this stage, so yeah.
It's funny, it's super established, but at the same time super underground and quite small, and because of that they're also really approachable.
Yeah.
Like, none of those guys will, well, I don't think they do. They're not getting DMs every day asking for all kind of random stuff.
Yeah, probably not, man.
So if you do approach them, there's a big chance that they are going to respond.
They're just probably super selective.
Yeah, whereas, for example, if you slide into the DMs of Alex Perez or Lensman, chances are there's a lot of guys who are trying that, and you're not going to get a lot of response there.
Yeah, North Quarter is my absolute like goal one day to like release something on there.
It's for a lot of guys. I would love to release there too, but I've also had a chat with Lensman a little while back when he was playing in Amsterdam, and he was talking about how they like he is not interested in signing someone, doing an EP and thanks, bye bye.
No, it's long term.
He wants like a long-term investment into an artist. He wants to grow, like he wants the artist to grow. He wants the label to grow with the artist. For example, like what he's been doing with Settle is a good example.
Yeah.
Where they started with, I think, a few tunes, then an EP, then a different EP, where he was really pushing Settle to, you know, explore your own sound, your own identity a bit more, which really turned out great, and like a really nice EP that he made there.
Yeah.
And but he pretty much, Lensman pretty much said, you know, I can do that for X amount of people before it becomes watered down and I can put in the proper amount of time.
No, I respect that. Yeah.
And he said he's pretty much at that amount of people, so you need to be really, really fucking good to convince him to.
You need to be better than Settle, basically.
Pretty much. And even then, I think he might just say, well, I already have my crew.
No, definitely, yeah. I know, like, North Quarter, they don't even, like, you can send stuff to them, but I don't think they even listen to demos. They don't take demos. It's just they have their own artists and that's it. And you have to get noticed, a bit like Echo Brown recently. Like, he's been doing stuff with them, and I'm guessing I forget because we actually talked about it on the podcast, but he just basically got noticed, and then you kind of enter that circle because you're making amazing music elsewhere. Just have to kind of cross your fingers,
Yeah, so I think, speaking for myself, I would love to release on the North Quarter. At the same time, I also kind of recognize, you know, a very similar thing is what Johnny and Grant are doing with Goldfed.
Yeah.
Where they're also trying to like push the artist, invest a lot of time into them, grow the label along with the artist, and not just do a one-time thing.
Yeah.
So, because especially earlier on, before I was on Goldfed, I really had these clear ideas in mind. Okay, I want to release on Spearhead. I want to release something on Galaxy, like Liquidity. I want to maybe try something on Hospital one day. I want to go on the North Quarter. You know, I really had these goals, and now I'm more of, if they approach me, sure, I would be happy to work with them. But if not, I'm quite content just having my stuff on Goldfed.
Yeah. It's not a bad place to be, honestly.
For sure.
What you have to find is just a label where you trust their judgment in terms of the quality of your tunes, and I think Goldfed definitely provides that.
And it's also kind of circled back to your own marketing strategy. Do you want to settle on one label and really grow with them and go from there?
Yeah.
Like what I've been sort of doing with Goldfed, but also what, for example, the guys on the North Quarter are all doing. Or there's also artists, say Nympho is a good example. He will have an EP out on Dispatch, then he will be on CIA. We will be on Liquidity next.
I was like, what?
Then back to then he will have something on 1985 and Sofa Sound. And then he will be on Spearhead again. And there's also Blackout, which is on a lot. And I feel like he doesn't really have a home label as much, but at the same time, it really works for him the way he just. Has all these different labels where he can do different sounds.
And each label has their own audience. So there's not a perfect crossover like between all the labels. So you're going to be reaching out to different people all the time. So that's a very valuable strategy as well. It's just completely different. You get different things and you miss out on other things.
Yeah, and it's also like, what can the label bring for you? So obviously with Nympho, all these big labels, they can bring a lot of things, but like for a smaller artist, so a good example, I've been in touch with the guys from Liquidity and Galaxy, and been sending them demos too. just because I know, okay, with Goldfed I can really, reach the UK crowds. They can put me on amazing plays, like they can get me on UKF, on Drum and Bass Arena, that kind of stuff, and it's really sick. At the same time, my home base here in the Netherlands, no one, or like not many people really follow that as much.
Yeah.
Here, if you want to get noticed and if you want to get gigs, you just gotta be on like Liquidity or Galaxy.
Yeah.
And if they push you, then you're getting gigs in the Netherlands.
Yeah.
And they're also not reduced to just that, because they're also great guys and lovely to work with, very professional and reliable. So that's also very the most important thing.
Yeah.
But I am kind of strategically thinking about, okay, so if I release on Goldfed, I will more reach a bit of that crowd. If I release on Galaxy, I might connect with a Dutch crowd a bit more.
Yeah.
So that's also a way to be strategic about that.
Yeah.
Though at the same time, if you're doing it too much, labels will start to notice. And because labels like working with artists on a longer term, like I said, growing with having an artist grow with them, investing in an artist and getting a lot out of it again. And if you're just seen as someone who's just a label hopper, that will like manifest in subtle things, right? So maybe when they do a big live stream event, they will invite all the regulars to play a set, but not you as a label hopper. Or when they have a spot on a gig, they will give it to a regular, not to someone who's just for this one-off tune. So it's a bit of a balance to strike there.
Yeah. There's pros and cons with both approaches. So you just have to reflect on what kind of works for you and what your objectives are. Is it really because if you want to release like an EP every month, then you can't do it on Goldfed, for example. You have to be on multiple labels. So that's also
and that's obviously also part of it. Just the simple logistics. Because I write quite a lot of music. Maybe also circling back to those two approaches, it means I can quite consistently create something. For example, now I have a few demos to be feedbacked over at Goldfed. I have a few demos to be feedbacked over at Galaxy. I have a few other projects that I'm still working on, which are nearing completion. If I wanted to stick to just one label, I would sort of create I would create releases months or even years in advance at some point.
Yeah.
Which doesn't really work.
Yeah.
So that's also part of it, like just a very practical thing. Do you have enough space to put out your music?
Yeah, definitely. Dude, you didn't lie when you said we were halfway and you had a lot to say about marketing.
Yeah.
But it's a fascinating topic, and it's one I love to chat about. And I think obviously these are just our opinions, and again, for the third time, it's a free world. Everybody does whatever they want, but
for sure. But it's good to be conscious about the decisions you're making,
exactly,
about what you're doing and also what you're not doing.
Exactly. Yeah. So just gonna quickly close it off with a few Patreon questions here. I got a few through from Nathan. He was asking, are there any dream collabs with jazz artists that you would like to do, kind of like a drum and bass spin on their music or something like that?
Oh yeah, for sure. I think someone like Robert Glaspers would be a really nice one to work with. Someone like Alpha Mist, who does a lot of kind of hip hop, jazz crossover stuff. Those are just two names that pop up in the top of my head. at the same time, I think I would also be really overwhelmed working with such like a musician of that kind of level.
Yeah, actual musicians.
Yeah, I get such like imposter syndrome when I'm talking with someone who actually plays an instrument and
who knows
does
chords.
actual music. Yeah,
yeah, who actually knows what a seventh is.
yeah, it's 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah. No, but yeah, it's definitely having a collab with someone like that would be amazing.
And yeah, Nathan just had a last question here. Any plans or ideas you have on how to continue to implement jazz into your drum and bass in the future?
Oh yeah, for sure. So that's actually we touched upon this a little bit again already. So I started off just really going through a whole lot of jazz just to sample from it. And a lot of my earlier tracks are just like I didn't really write much pianos, for example, chords myself. A lot of them were sampled. And I still do that sometimes, but now I've also started to learn more and more about music theory and like playing the piano. And I'm switching more and more to writing chords myself, just because it gives a bit more freedom of where I want to take like an idea. And that also means that I can, as I'm learning more about playing piano and like getting more jazz standards. Actually, I have this book here. The real book.
The real book. Okay.
It's a staple within jazz.
It's huge.
Oh yeah, and it's just all. And I can't play anything of this yet, but it's all just fairly empty sheet music with just the chord changes of like jazz songs that everyone knows.
Okay.
And this is like the repertoire that every jazz session, like every jazz jam session,
that's the Bible.
People will play from the real book.
The Bible.
Yeah, I have the book. I can't play anything out of it yet. At some point, I wanna be able to, because having there's a difference between understanding what a seventh chord is and having certain common sounds of a genre like in your muscle memory as a player. So I definitely want to improve that jazz muscle memory.
Yeah.
And maybe this one I shouldn't maybe talk about before I'm actually doing it, because it's going to be years before this will happen.
Okay.
But I have this idea that once I can play piano good enough to like play and improvise jazz, close friend of mine, childhood friend of mine, is playing guitar and getting more and more into playing jazz guitar. And then my dad is a drummer and is also playing around with recording, like a mixing, but like more for bands and recorded music.
Okay.
So at some point I have this idea of bringing the three of us together, having everything properly recorded, to do like a 2-3 hour jam session where we just improvise playing jazz. And that's going to be then, and this is again, this is an own idea, and it's years off before I will be anywhere close enough to play this. But then once we've done this jam session, that's going to be like my my sample source to create an album out of.
Yeah. I think you mentioned that on the Winslow podcast.
Oh, did I?
Yeah.
See,
yeah.
I'm shouting this idea everywhere, and I'm nowhere near.
You're gonna have to do it at some
execute
point now.
I know.
Yeah. Now that sounds like an amazing idea. Or even like you could. So would this be a drum and bass album, or?
Yeah, like I would say maybe say how an FD album is, where it's mostly drum and bass, a few interludes in there, maybe a random house track in there.
Yeah.
Something along those lines. But yeah, mainly drum and bass.
Dude, that would be a sick idea, honestly.
Yeah, so the idea is there. I have it all thought out. Now the only thing is to execute it.
Yeah, you just have to do it. That's the easy part.
Yeah, just learn to play piano.
All you have to
easy.
do is learn jazz. That's all. Yeah. Well, yeah, I'll be looking forward to that project whenever it is. And yeah, we're gonna slowly wrap this up. I'm leaving for Belgium tomorrow, so I still need to pack my bags.
Oh, nice.
And my wife is waiting. I can hear her moving around because she wants to pack her bags, and I'm in the bedroom, so she's waiting to to walk in at any minute. But yeah, it's been a pleasure chatting with you, man. Really enjoyed.
Yeah, so thank you so much for having me on the show. It's been fun talking.
Yeah, no, it was really good, and yeah, I loved our marketing part. I think people will really enjoy that one. I think there were a lot of great insights that people can take away. So yeah, before we shut down, maybe let people know where they can check you out online, if you have any projects upcoming, your radio show, all that stuff.
Yeah, so obviously the name's Auris, but you should know that by now. Auris DMB on most socials, mainly on Instagram is where I'm the most active. Don't really have any releases coming up as of now, but I have just started a radio show on GoatChat, which is on Friday once every 4 weeks. It's called Bridges, where I kind of talk about, like, I try to showcase different bubbles, different scenes, underground, undiscovered music, and just stuff that I think sounds really cool. So that's happening. Is there anything more? No, that's mainly it. I'm kind of in a quiet before the storm in terms of new music coming out. So you have to stay tuned for those.
Yeah, well, it's always good to have a bit of quiet also to kind of rest before the next marketing push.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, great. Well, best of luck with the next releases. Looking forward to those. We didn't talk about it a lot, but I was a big fan of your Metro 54 EP. I thought it was a great achievement and a great sound that you achieved on that one.
Thank you.
So yeah, looking forward to your next stuff. And yeah, in the meantime, all the best, man.
Yeah, thanks.